Nothing says romance like a Valentine's-themed serial killer. Today we're discussing Heart Eyes, a holiday-themed slasher movie mixed with a rom-com. I'll be happy with a box of chocolates and some good gory kills, but let's see if that's what Cupid has in store. Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is my Valentine, Tim.
Hey, we are not a couple, okay?
You can't deny the chemistry, Tim. You can't deny the sparks that are flying.
I'm just trying not to get killed.
This is a horror movie podcast, and today we're talking about Heart Eyes, a Valentine's theme movie, which came out basically exactly a year ago because it was out for last Valentine's. And I was thinking, like, why didn't we do this when it came out? Because I'm sure it came out at the same time for us, because there's no way they delayed it till like March in the UK. And then I remembered, it's because we weren't recording anything because the fires last year. That's why we didn't do it when it came out last year. I was like, okay, that makes sense. All right, but hey. So we could have done this months ago, but it was like, well, we might as well wait until Valentine's Day, because, you know, it's not like there's going to be another Valentine's horror movie out this year. It was highly unlikely it was going to happen anyway. So here we are today. We'll start spoiler free as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we get into the spoilers. And of course, if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, hit the like button or give us 5 stars in your podcast app. And you can support everything we do and help keep the show coming over at Patreon or YouTube membership and get bonuses. But I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. So yeah, Heart Eyes is a serial killer with a mask on that has like heart sort of goggles in it. That's kind of his get-up. It's a slasher movie. Kills couples on Valentine's or around Valentine's Day. It's kind of that simple. Obviously, there's some main characters to talk about, but we'll get to that in a minute. You know, once we're past impressions and whatnot. But you saw this, right? Did you see this when it came out last year? Or did you see it sort of randomly somewhere, just kind of in the middle of the year?
Yeah. I don't remember exactly when, but at some point we watched it on Netflix. I think it was just like a weekend where we were bored and we're like, hey, we haven't seen this yet, so let's just throw it on. But yeah, it was one of those watches where I couldn't remember if I wasn't really digging the movie or maybe I just wasn't paying super close attention, because I really didn't not necessarily that like I remembered it being bad, but I just didn't really remember feeling any way about it at all. So this was basically like a fresh watch for me. Yeah,
this is the first time I watched it. There's very few movies where if I know we're doing it on the show within, say, 6 months, where I'll be like, I'm going to watch it and then just watch it again for the show later. I'll usually, unless it's something I'm really excited about, I'll be like, I can just wait until we're doing it on the show so I'm not doubling up. Because if I don't like a movie, it's going to be miserable having to watch it again like that soon after. So yeah, I mean, I didn't know what to expect. The like Rotten Tomatoes score and stuff like that is actually kind of in the high side for a movie of this type. It seemed to review fairly well. I think Matt liked it. Our friend Matt. He was into it. So I was like, okay, I don't know what to expect from this exactly. All I really wanted going in, it was just a slasher movie, fun slasher movie. That's all I needed from it. So we'll find out here if it delivered. So this is directed by Josh Ruben, who I don't think I know. Well, I mean, at least not from name. Maybe if I'll click on him, maybe I'll recognize half of these other things. We did one of his movies. Oh, Werewolves Within. Yeah, we did that back at some point. Yeah, I don't recognize anything else here. So just that one.
I would say I'm fairly positive on him. Before Werewolves Within, he did a movie called Scare Me, which I actually liked quite a bit. We didn't do it on the show, but I was a fan of that one. And then Werewolves Within, I thought was pretty fun. So he had I wouldn't say he's reached like a status where it's like, oh yeah, like I'm all in whatever the next thing he's doing. But he was like reliable enough that I'm like, okay, I'll if he does something, I don't mind giving it a watch.
And then the main cast we got here, the 2 leads are Olivia Holt, who was in Cloak and Dagger, apparently. Not that I ever watched
the Marvel show?
Yeah, the Marvel show, which I think was let's say that was Hulu that did that on, maybe?
Yeah.
Something like that?
That's like one of those shows that just like doesn't exist. Like, I mean, like technically it exists, but like good luck finding anyone that's seen it or remembers it.
It sounds like you're accusing them of doing a tax scam or something. Like, this is a tax write-off.
There's like certain movies like there's just such a glut of like streaming stuff nowadays that there's certain things that's like, oh yeah, this was made, but does it exist? Does any like if no one ever watched it or remembers it,
if a tree falls in the woods, yes, I get what you're saying. Yeah. She was also in Totally Killer, which we did do on the show, and it's the only other thing here that I really recognize. I mean, she did a voice in like a Spider-Man cartoon, but like, I mean, that's not really worth mentioning too much.
Which one was Totally Killer? Well, that was like one of the many like, hey, we're taking like an 80s comedy trope and making it horror thing.
Yeah, that was the Back to the Future one with Kieran Shipka and Back in Time.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
There's like been so many of them now. It's like, okay, is that like the Groundhog Day one or the Freaky Friday one or?
Yeah, and then the other lead is Mason Gooding, who most prominently for the horror movie show, people will know him from Scream 5 and 6. Mm-hmm. And 7 upcoming as well.
Soon to be 7. Yeah.
So those are the leads. But anyway, before we get into anything else, let's just get this rip off the old plaster. That's Band-Aid for Americans. What did you think of Heart Eyes, Tim?
You know, like on a technical level, I guess there's.
You're just searching. I want to say something positive. But you can just it's like the Terminator scanning his database, looking for the right file to bring up, like looking for positivity, looking.
Like I wouldn't say there's anything necessarily bad about it, but this is just something that just kind of completely washes over me. Like I don't know. I just don't connect to it at all, really. Like. I don't know, it's not horrible. I feel very little investment in it, I guess. Like, the premise is decent enough. There's, like, some cool things. Like, I mean, I do think, like, it looks cool, like, when the, killer's eyes light up, but they barely do that throughout the movie. I kind of thought, like, that was going to be, like, his whole, big, like, MO. I mean, the kills are, like, okay, but... I don't know. This is just such a like kind of average down the middle like movie, which I apologize. Sometimes those are kind of hard when we talk about it all the time, but it's like, well, yeah, I just don't feel passionate about it. Like I wish I hated it so I could tell you how much it sucks, or that I loved it so I could just gush about it for an hour and a half or whatever. But yeah, this is just one of those ones where I'm like, it's fine, I guess, but I don't know. Yeah, again, a lot of the stuff they're doing like doesn't really work for me. I don't think they're necessarily doing stuff that's bad. If I was gonna ding it for everything, I'd say maybe it's definitely very humor focused, and I feel like a lot of the jokes were maybe either a bit like cliche or as just like, not that I would accuse them of like necessarily stealing stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that I feel like, well, I've seen that before. Like a good example is like that crossword joke where I was like, well, that's just the same joke from Hot Fuzz. Like,
I Joe, I thought Hot Fuzz as well. Yeah, I was like, fascist. Excuse me, 5-letter word for whatever. Is it 5? Maybe 6 letters. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Yeah. The point is, it's that same joke. Yeah, where the woman's doing the crossword. Yeah. It's like, word for dog ending in H, and she's like, bitch, and she's like, excuse me. He's like, female dog, bitch. And she's like, oh, thank you. I'm like, yeah, that is literally just a scene from Hot Fuzz.
Yeah. But like, there's a lot of stuff like that where, and like the detectives being named like Hobbs and Shaw. Like,
not only is that a stupid joke, but one of the detectives is played by Jordana Brewster, who is in the Fast and the Furious franchise. Like it's like a
that I didn't even realize.
Yeah, she's in like she's like the Paul Walker love interest to that franchise. So it's like a meta, like, hey, we're making a little joke to the thing she's in, but in the most like egregious way possible, where we stop the movie where the character realizes the name. Look, I don't mind a cheeky little reference to something that an actor's famous for in a horror movie, right? The examples that spring to mind, and these aren't necessarily good movies, by the way, but funnily enough, in Valentine, there's a line where someone says about David Boreanaz that he's no angel, right? But it's like a one little thing and it makes sense in the context. It doesn't feel that forced, right? And there's a scene in Urban Legend when the Dawson's Creek theme plays on the radio whilst Joshua Jackson's in a scene. And it's just it plays for like 2 seconds, and it's like, for people who know it's funny, and for if you don't know, it doesn't really matter, right? You don't feel like there's a joke you're not getting. Here, it's like, my name is Detective So-and-so Hobbs. My name is Detective So-and-so Shaw. Mm-hmm. You mean Hobbs and Shaw? Mm-hmm. Like the movie? Pause.
Yeah.
We've not seen it. Now we can move on with the plot. Okay.
Yeah, and again, like, you just gave some examples, but I feel like, I don't mind those kind of references if they're done well, but I just feel like, okay, I've seen this joke before where it's like, oh, ha ha ha, the characters are named like characters from something else. Like, but again, it's just, and I don't feel like, they're stealing, like, oh, this is a ripoff or blah, blah. It just feels like, these are just kind of like lazy, obvious things.
Honestly, it would be at least twice as funny if they didn't have a character point it out. See if they just said, my name is Hobbs, so Shaw, and then they never mention it, but you noticed, wait a minute, did they just say their names are Hobbs and Shaw? If they just let the audience notice that, it would be instantly funnier.
So, I don't know. I'm just, it's weird. I it's not like, I guess, necessarily bad to the point where I'm like, want to rave up, like, rage against it or whatever. But yeah, I didn't really find myself connecting to much of it. I don't know. How did you feel? This is yeah. So is this contender for top 10 of 2025?
I hasten to suspect that no, it is not a contender for the top 10 of 2025. I don't know. I feel like I want to wage war this year, Tim, on mediocrity, because that's like
that'd be a good shirt, actually. Like
waging war on mediocrity.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, this movie sadly is not pulling from the type of slasher movies that I would have wanted it to pull from. I wanted a slasher movie of ye old times, and instead this wants to be, funnily enough, it wants to be one of the slasher movies inspired by Scream. It wants to be the whodunit a little bit. It wants to be more comedy based, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but if the jokes don't work, they don't work, and that's a whole problem to get into. But honestly, the movie, to me, well, there's little like sparkles of moments here or there where I think, oh, that was an okay moment or an okay joke or an okay idea for a kill. Generally speaking, I felt this to be very lame. And the closest thing I'd compare it to, honestly, I was like halfway through, I'm like, are we sure Radio Silence didn't make this? Because it feels like a Radio Silence movie.
Yeah.
It's that tone that I do not like in horror movies. I don't mind a light-hearted horror movie or a silly horror movie. I like tons of silly horror movies, but the silly horror movies that I tend to like are, I don't know, like a cheesy sequel to a franchise or something. This is like all this weird like meta, we know we're in a horror movie, so we're not even going to act like we're in a, and it's not like it's making like meta jokes about being in a horror movie in this case. It's just the fact that the characters seem to just stop acting like they're in a horror movie the second anything horror stops happening. So as soon as there's some downtime, we're back to just the flirting, or we're back to just like, it's like we weren't being almost killed for the last 30 minutes. We're just going to sit and joke around, and it just feels so off to me, and it betrays the movie of any potential actual tension that's supposed to be there. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's kind of a problem I had, where I feel like it had too many like concepts, I guess. Like there was a lot going on, and I'm not just talking about like plot wise, but like you kind of have this concept where it's like, okay, we're in like a typical rom-com, but then there's also like the concept of like the main character is fighting against those tropes and being like sucked into it, but then also they throw in like this slasher horror element to it out of nowhere, but then also there's just like a general like trying to be like funny. Like there's so many times when like a character in the background or something would just shout something where so it like, I don't know, I feel like maybe they just needed to stick a little closer to like, okay, if you want to do a thing where it's like a rom-com meets horror, okay, just stick with that. But then it's like okay, it's a rom-com, but they're fighting against it being a rom-com, but then also now there's this horror element, but then also it's kind of just like straight up comedy, and then yeah, like you're kind of saying, it does kind of give it like this weird tonal shift where like 1 minute they'll be saying something like really goofy that like, okay, no one would ever say that in this situation, and then the next, they're trying to run away from a killer, like like it is an actual horror movie, and we're supposed to feel like this adrenaline or tension or something, but at then, like, I never have any of that excitement or anything, because it's like, well, no one is taking anything seriously in this movie, which again might not be a bad thing if we are doing more of just like a straight up horror comedy or something, but seems like they are trying to kind of have it both ways, where it's like, oh no, we're trying to do like a big goofy funny comedy thing, but then also like a cool slasher that people would like or whatever. But I don't know, it didn't work.
Tonal consistency is absolutely a problem, and as you were saying, like, there's too many like ideas almost in the movie. Like early on, it does a thing where it's like, hey, this serial killer's been striking for a few years, so he's kind of famous. That, like, we get like a news montage of all the newscasters, all that looked terrible to me, by the way. Like, every single one of these news programs looked as the most fake thing ever. But like, they're, it's like, okay, this is interesting. Everyone knows about this guy targeting couples. So I thought, oh, that's the main gimmick of the movie then, is that we're dealing with a slasher villain who is famous, who is on the news. People are expecting him to show up, and he's been moving around city to city each year, targeting different couples. Okay, there's an idea there. I don't know exactly what you're going to do with that, but I thought that's an idea. And I feel like it almost doesn't matter for like 90% of the movie that they've set that up. And then there's also like, it becomes more of a whodunit than I thought it would be. I don't really care about the whodunit element of it at all, and which leads me to the other big problem with this that really hampered my enjoyment, is that I think the killer kind of sucks. And when I say sucks, I think the mask is fine. I think the look's perfectly okay. My problem is the way that he acts, and the way that he is I guess filmed, right? The way it's captured in the scene and how it's edited, is that he always just feels like a guy in an outfit who's got a lot of weapons and is very tactical. Like, he's quickly switching to a bowgun, or he's switching to a throwing knife, and it feels like just a military guy or something chasing someone down, almost like an action movie villain.
Yeah.
Rather than, because he's always like walking with this quick pace. And I know people like to make fun of, well, like Michael Myers is walking really slow and he always catches up. But it's creepier, and it feels like he's more of like a presence. He's more of a force of nature. This guy never ever feels like anything but a guy in a mask with no mystique. That's the word. There's no mystique. There's like zero mystique to this killer at all.
Yeah, and I also I don't like the idea of like, what's great about like stuff like Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street or whatever, is that like these killers, they feel like urban legends, and it's like, oh yeah, people will talk about them, but like this, it's like the whole nation knows of him, and he just like seemingly goes to like random cities, like there's no mystique to it, like you're saying. Like, it's just I feel like I don't know, like, I don't want my slasher to just be like very brazenly walking out in the open while like hundreds of people run away from him and stuff. Like, I don't know, it doesn't work. Well,
I mean, I can see that working if you imagine like Jason walking into like a crowded area just slowly. It's actually kind of cool because he just doesn't care that he's walking out in the open. There's kind of like a presence to him. I feel like here this killer just kind of, like, he storms down the street like he's in a hurry, and it just feels like really human. And I sometimes have that problem with even Ghostface from the Scream movies, where sometimes I feel they're just a bit too normal, right? A bit too human compared to like the other slasher titans, if you will. That said, though, I'll take Ghostface over this loser just about any day of the week. But it does suffer some of the same kind of like the whodunit elements, and it suffers some of the, and honestly, yeah, like out of nowhere, like, no spoilers here, but there is like a random like phone call element like really late in the movie, like, which it wasn't a thing the whole time, but all of a sudden someone's getting a phone call, and it's like, oh, we're doing a creepy voice over the phone now. Like, that's not been a thing the whole movie, but all of a sudden we're doing the Scream bit for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really feel like it's like the best thought out movie. Like, if I don't know, I guess like it kind of feels like stuff just happens, like, and then yeah, I don't know, it just doesn't flow together that well.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say it's a pacing problem, but it's less pacing. Like the pacing technically, I think might be okay. It's more just like like you say, the flow from like one event to the next feels a little bit strange. Like there's the whole meet cute element, which leads to this encounter, which leads to that encounter, and then the fact that the killers even after the main characters is kind of just happenstance, which is fine. Like don't get me wrong, I'm okay with it just being like he just happens to zero in on them because however he picks these victims, it's fine. But because we get to like more like there's actually a backstory about who the killer is and stuff, and there's stuff going on, it just feels a bit more, I don't know, coincidental, I guess. And I just dear. Plus the way that the horror stuff actually starts, right, forgetting like the prologue where it teases some stuff, obviously, like the way that the killer actually enters into the story when he actually attacks the main characters is like, I actually think in the moment itself is kind of a good idea on paper. Like, it's kind of a cool moment, but it also is so out of nowhere when the characters have not even felt like a moment of like, we shouldn't be out at night. It's a bit creepy with a killer on the list or something. Like, it feels like they're, like, even though they've seen news reports of this killer, it feels like they just do not think about it. No one's like concerned about out in the street. Everyone's still going out on their dates for Valentine's like normal. It seems like at least show that the city's a little bit scared of doing things normally because a killer's on the list to create some atmosphere. That would be something, some atmosphere.
Yeah, for sure. I would say it seems like unbelievable, but I feel like the last couple of years it's kind of showed us that I don't know, people don't necessarily get too concerned for their own safety. Oh, sure. I'm not arguing for realism here, for the record. I'm speaking just more would be more effective as a movie. Sure.
Yeah, but no, I mean you're right. It's yeah. I guess that's the thing. There's no atmosphere. There's no mystique. It just kind of feels like any modern like lighthearted like horror comedy where like characters are being kind of quippy and everything's kind of just dull looking from a cinematography perspective. Everything's kind of just that generic digital, this was made to be on Netflix kind of look to it. There's very little here that feels like it's, and then all the ideas feel like regurgitated ideas from other things pretty much, and then the reveals later on, which I won't even allude to here, are just so nothing burgers. Like, I don't care that it means nothing. And part of it even feels like they just added an extra element onto it. Yeah. Just not even to cover a plot hole, but just to be like, so we could do this thing earlier. We added an extra thing so that we could just explain it away and hand wave it in the last chunk of the movie. Because that's the other thing. This movie tries to pretend that it's wrapping up like half an hour before the end, and you're like, nah, clearly you're not. I can see the runtime, right? It's only been like 65 minutes, so there's clearly going to be, danger still out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a good sign when like it feels like the movie's ending, and then you're angry that it's like still going on. Yeah. Like if it was a good movie, you're like, oh no, we can't stop here. Like, oh no, there's some more. Like with this, it's kind of like, we're still got more to go. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, and you brought up the kills being okay, and they are like, I feel like they're better in theory than they are actually visually on the screen, if that makes sense. Where like I like the idea of some of the kills here, but either the quick cuts or maybe it's the CG or whatever. CGI, but they just don't quite hit as much as I would like them to. Yeah, so no, I didn't like it, Tim. To put it the final point, I don't think it's the worst thing ever. It's hard to say it's complete trash or anything like that, but it's just it's thoroughly in that mediocre to just kind of bad for me. That like throw it in the pile with Abigail and Ready or Not. And to be honest, like is this better or worse than those? Like Ready or Not's probably the best out of the three that I just mentioned. Is this better than Abigail? I don't know. I'm having a hard time.
Pretty bad.
I don't know. I struggle to make a decision with that.
I mean, I think the first Abigail is pretty bad, but
as opposed to the second Abigail.
I actually think the second Abigail is pretty good.
What are you talking about? Are you joking right now? Are you messing with me?
No. No, I like the second Abigail. Abigail, what is that? That's not Comes Home. What's the second one? Creation?
That's Annabelle, Tim. Abigail's only one movie.
Oh. Okay.
I'm losing my goddamn mind.
It.
I was just talking about the second one.
That makes a lot more sense. All right, yeah, I was thinking of Annabelle.
Yeah, Annabelle's worse than this. Abigail's more of a even match.
Yeah, okay. I would agree then. Yeah, like that it definitely it's like firmly in that company.
I like the second one more. It's such a funny sentence when there's no second one. Yeah, all right. We'll probably get into spoilers here in a minute then, so we can talk about whatever we want to talk about. I don't suspect this is one we're going to go through in order, because I think that would just be a tedious affair to do the whole thing in order. But we'll talk about the different elements of it. And the romance part of it, the will they, won't they, between the two leads, is kind of the main plot, to be honest. And the killer is like almost secondary to that, which also might be why it's kind of a bit lame as a horror movie as well, honestly.
Sure.
So...
Oh, no, well, let's just say, all right, so spoilers ahead, but I will say, as a concept, I think there is something interesting to, like, have, like, you know, a rom-com mixed with, like, a horror movie. I do think there's something there. I just think you would probably have to, you know, really nail down either the rom-com part or the horror part. I don't think either part is necessarily well done, which, you know, is probably why it doesn't work.
I also think the horror part needs to be simpler. Like, I think this whole, like, oh, there might be multiple killers, and you know, we're going to think the movie's over like 2/3 through, and so on. Like, I think all those elements are just making it more complex. It should just be more of a simple stalk and slash kind of horror plot to go along with the rom-com. But you know, whatever. So spoilers for the Heart Eyes, just in case that wasn't clear already. I mean, where to start? I guess. I mean, so there's actually 3 killers. Like, so this is one of the things, just to jump straight to the end here, is that, so at the end of Act 2, there's a big sort of showdown in like a drive-in movie theatre that's showing an old romantic movie. I think it's His Girl Friday. I've not seen that, but it's Cary Grant, and it looked like His Girl Friday to me. But there's a whole showdown where they actually take out the killer, right? And he's dead. They pull off the mask and they're like, who's this guy? And I'm like, why did you think you'd know who it is? Why do you think? Why would you think it's personally someone you know, especially when these killings have been going on in like multiple cities around the country for a couple of years? That felt like a weird reaction to me. But it does the whole thing where it's like, oh, the movie's kind of over, I guess, and then it becomes like, oh, but is she going to go and like stop him from go to the airport and say that she loves him, blah blah blah. And then we get the showdown with and it's a very much like a crappy version of the end of a Scream movie where we unmask the killers, and there's 2 more killers. And it's Jordana Brewster, one of the cops, who's been there throughout the film, which is like the least surprising thing ever. I felt like they were telegraphing that pretty heavily throughout. And then like the IT guy that was in one scene at the police station, and it's like, okay, that's your weird tertiary character who's a killer. And I'm like, okay, but what about the third one? And they kind of say they were in a throuple, but then they kind of say, no, it's really just us two. He was just kind of a fanboy that wanted to help out. So no, we don't even care that he's dead. And I'm like, this feels so sloppy to me that there was a third killer just so you could kill him off, like 2/3 out of the movie, to try and trick the audience into thinking it's all done now. But you still wanted to have 2 killers at the end. Like, wouldn't it actually be better if it was just the 2 killers and one of them got killed, and then maybe Jordana Brewster would be more pissed off because her weird, like, you know, crazy boyfriend or husband was now dead, so she'd be more motivated to be extra vicious in the third act. Like, it would give her more fire and more like determination. And that's just one idea, but like, it feels so weird and sloppy to me. You have this third killer who is dead before we even reveal who the other killers are. I don't know. I thought it was a bit lame.
No, I agree. And usually, like with a Scream movie, like the whodunit aspect is something that's like baked into it. So yeah, like you're kind of wondering throughout the whole movie, like, oh, who's it gonna be? And then when you get to the end, you know, the villain will do their monologue, and you'll realize like, oh, this is how they've been doing it, and this is their connection, and blah blah blah. It's just so out of nowhere, because it's like, well, no one was really concerned about the identity for most of the movie, and then yeah, you reveal it, but it's like, you know, the detective character has been throughout the movie, but it's not like, you know, she really had like a personal connection or felt like a big main character that we would care about, you know? So it's just like, okay, I really don't care about this.
Yeah, the whodunit element is probably my least favorite part of Scream, particularly the sequels. I think I wish they just let it go. But to be fair to it, at least throughout the movie, there's a constant idea of like, it's someone that we know because it's always someone who's infiltrated our life, right? It's always someone who's in the friend group or is related to one of us or something. But like, nothing in this movie indicates that it's anyone personally attached to either of the main characters. And the only time they really play up the whodunit, and I was still annoyed by this for the record, is in the middle of the movie, like just after, like basically the start of Act 2, they arrest the male lead, they arrest Jay, Mason Goon's character, because they think he's the killer. So they want to do the Scream thing is, is the boyfriend the killer? You know, we're teasing that because he's been traveling around these different cities, kind of at similar time periods, and so on. And that's, you know, it's basically just there as a big red herring to make the main girl not trust them for a bit, but at the same time, she kind of does trust them anyway because she saw a killer attack him too. So unless they were, you know, putting on a show to try and convince her that he's innocent, she never really considers that, so she's pretty convinced that he's innocent and he doesn't belong in handcuffs the entire time. So it all felt a bit fruitless, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think there's ever like a second where I was fooled or anything by it, because yeah, like you said, we're seeing them run away from like the killer and stuff, and I don't know, it just never really did anything for me.
Yeah, I mean, I believe there was probably more than one killer as soon as they brought it up. I was like, yeah, probably. That's probably going to do that. And that's the other thing as well. Given that it turns out to really be like her and her IT guy, boyfriend or husband. So they've been traveling to different cities to kill these people. I'm like, I get that she has some vacation time, but I feel like she, like, you know, her job does keep her tied to this city, right? She is a police detective. Specifically in, I think it's Seattle they're in the movie. So like, you know, is she taking like a week off, like, you know, a couple of times a year to go kill some couples with her boyfriend?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird aspect to it that I don't really think is like necessary. Like, why not just have him be a killer that's in this one location, and then that would make more sense why. You know, people might be nervous about going up, you know, going out on Valentine's Day for this one place. Like, the way they make it seem is like the whole country like stays in on this day, which I don't know. Again, that feels kind of like too big for like a slasher movie to me.
Yeah. Although I would maybe dispute that a little bit and say that they don't convince me of that. Like they kind of like, I get what you're saying, that they're kind of, that's what they should be implying based on what they're saying, but they never actually convince me that anyone's actually acting that way. So the atmosphere that could be created from it isn't quite there. But no, I agree. It should have just been a killer that's based in Seattle. Just have it be a Seattle-based thing. It's a big city. It's not like he was going to run out of victims anytime soon.
Right. Yeah.
You know. And I'm saying he because I'm still thinking that Heart Eyes is like a singular dude, but obviously it's a mix of two guys and a girl, and possibly a pizza place. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I mean, to go back to this, so there's an opening kill where, and immediately I was worried about the tone of the movie, because this opening scene with this like couple who are trying to like do the perfect engagement, and they've got like a photographer like off in the distance trying to like snap the photo as the sun's like starting to go down behind them, and it's very clear early on that like the girlfriend's like made the boyfriend actually like say what she wants him to say when he proposes. So he's like, she's mouthing what he's saying to her, and then they get annoyed because the photographer says that he didn't get the shot, so they have to do the proposal again. And it was all just a little bit like, oh, we're doing kind of this like, I don't know, bitchy. I mean, I get that they're making them unlikable so we can enjoy them being killed in a minute. Like, I get that part of it, but I was like, oh, is this going to be the tone of it? Is this going to be the sense of humor? Is like kind of these, I don't know, over the top, like ratty rich characters kind of thing? I don't know. I mean, you see her get squished in a big like wine juicer thing. I don't even know what you call that device when she like runs into the winery.
Yeah, I think that was at least like a fun enough kill. Obviously, it's very, CGI, which takes out a little bit, but whatever. It was all right. But I mean, I agree. Like, this is obviously supposed to be, like, oh, isn't this so funny? Like, these guys are being so obnoxious. Like, isn't it funny that how much they suck? But I don't know, it's just kind of annoying. Like, I don't really care about these people.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if it was trying to set up, oh, the killer only targets like couples who, like, I don't know, like don't aren't being truly in love. There's more this like this cynical thing. Anyone who's just doing it is kind of like a I don't know, a life statement or something. I don't know. Like the killers try to preserve the sanctity of love and marriage or something, but. I mean, it's not really a factor, of course. They just go after whoever they feel like, pretty much. So, I mean, that's the opening sequence, and then the main characters are introduced, and I got like a little moment of hope during the meet cute scene. The whole opening's Ali, Olivia Holt's character's in a coffee shop talking to her colleague, and she bumps in to Mason Gooding because they both have the same coffee order, right? A very specific coffee order. And it's like, oh, their hands touch as they reach for the cup, all the usual. Like, that wasn't doing much for me, but I did think that they went far enough with the accidental headbutts that when it happened a second time and he got a bloody nose, I was like, oh, okay, all right, you're kind of almost getting funny here. Like, if you keep this going where you keep accidentally injuring him, I might actually start finding this amusing. It never really became much more. He was kind of just a generic, like, handsome man from that point on, where... and then the big twist, of course, is that he's also going to the same company because he's coming in to fix their mistake. Because the backstory of the movie is that Ali made an advertising campaign for her company to advertise jewelry, and the whole thing was like reenacting famous like romantic tragedy scenes from movies. So there's one from Titanic, there's one from Romeo and Juliet. I don't remember what the other one was, but it's all like red ribbons are representing the blood. But our boss is mad, and everyone's like mad that this was made. They think it's in poor taste because there's literally a serial killer going around the country killing couples. So doing a whole advertising campaign based on couples whose like romances end in death feels really poor. Which again, I thought there was going to be more with that. I thought there was going because she's reading like the messages in the YouTube video at one point, and it's like, oh, whoever made this needs to be cancelled right now. Docs whoever made this. Like, this person's a monster. I thought maybe this was going to play into something again a bit more later, and it never did. It was just like, she's cynical. She doesn't really care about love right now.
Also, I forget who's playing her boss, but there's just like a really over the top character that feels like it should be like in a different movie or something. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't mind the like rom-com-ness of it all if it felt like maybe it was playing it a bit more straight or whatever, but it's weird because it like sometimes it feels like, oh yeah, we're just doing like a straight up rom-com thing, and then other times it feels like it's doing like, oh no, now we're making fun of rom-coms. And
it bounces between a little bit. Yeah. I think as well, I'd also just appreciate if it actually paid things off, that it, because like I say, it sets up all this like hate like she's kind of getting. I mean, they don't know it's her specifically, but all this hate she's seeing online, I thought they might pay off that a bit more. Maybe they'd actually care about, because the whole reason why they even keep talking is because they're supposed to work together to like fix this and come up with a new advertising campaign. I thought there'd at least be some advancement to that, or some, whatever. And then there's a whole other element to her character, which is that she's like still like obsessed with her ex-boyfriend who's now seeing someone else, and she keeps looking at his Instagram. And all it is it builds up to the moment at the end of kind of the date that she has with Jay, where she bumps into her ex with his new girlfriend, and she instinctively kisses Jay, and that's kind of their the spark moment of like, oh, we need to pretend to be a couple because I don't want to be embarrassed in front of my ex-boyfriend. And after that, we never see that the ex-boyfriend and his missus again. And I thought for sure you're setting up these kind of unlikable characters so that they can be killed off later. This can be a couple of fun free kills where the audience just gets to enjoy the gore or whatever. And they never come up again. I'm like, just, you've set things up. Do something with them. Anything with them. That would be lovely. But the only purpose they serve is to initiate this kiss in the moment. And just sort of generally show why Ali's, like, miserable and cynical towards romance, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Like it just feels like, I guess, very half baked. Where, okay, you're starting with an idea, but you forget to actually, follow up with it at any point. Like it's just like, okay, yeah, here's this thing, and let's on to the next.
I almost want to give it at least a little bit of a point, because I think the actual date scene, right, which is like, it's kind of a work dinner, but like, and they spend so much time in this as well, where like when they make this dinner date, where he's like, hey, let's go and get food, I made his reservations, you don't have plans, and we'll talk about, the work project, right? And it's clearly kind of a date anyway. I don't think that's just like a hidden thing here, even though Ali keeps saying it's not a date. But her friend, her colleague, says, no, you need to dress smarter than this for your date. So we get the whole rom-com montage of trying on the outfits scene that you've seen in like 100 different movies. And it's like, okay, I guess we're doing this. And again, this friend character, who's like heavily featured in the first 20 minutes, she basically disappears other than a phone call later on. And I'm like, again, I thought that's someone else that maybe get killed off. Which also kind of adds into this idea that the only two characters who are ever in danger are two leads, and they have absolute total plot armor. So I'm like, give me something. Like, I've noticed this, this was a problem I had with the first Megan, where it felt like only kind of unlikable characters were killed, and no one likable or that was close to the main characters ever actually died. And I think I felt that here. I felt like it had like a fear of doing anything that would actually upset the audience, and to the point where honestly, like, this I think is R-rated because it does have enough gore and there's enough F-bombs to make it R-rated, but it genuinely feels like a movie made for 13-year-olds in terms of its like, oh, we don't want to like upset you, we just want to be kind of fun and never kill anyone that you might remotely like, assuming that you made likable characters, which is debatable, to be honest. But like, you got this ex-boyfriend, you've got the best friend, colleague character, you've got these side characters that you could kill, or at least put in danger in a couple of scenes, and they never do anything with those. I will say that the date scene itself, which I was getting to, I do kind of like at least that when she gets super cynical about love to the point of like making it awkward, he just calls it quits and said, you know what, you're right, this is not a good night for this, and leaves. I was like, you know what, okay, he's at least reacting in a way that makes sense, because she did just completely kill the mood with her, no, romance is dead, no one will ever be in love, it's all a crock bullshit. But yeah, that was maybe the only time the relationship or the romantic part ever really did anything for me. And it's not like I was down in the movie completely by that point, because I was like, well, they can still turn it around once the horror stuff kicks in. Maybe it's got some fun ideas for what it's going to do once things really get going. But basically things keep putting them together where they're almost leaving, but they run into the ex and they have that awkward scenario. She gets in the same cab as him, and then she's like left her keys back at the restaurant or something to that effect. Someone's stolen her keys, so she can't get into her building, so he like comes and helps her, so he ends up in her apartment. So there's this like string of events that keep them together when they're almost like leaving each other multiple times, like in the space of like 5-10 minutes. And then the killer's just in the closet waiting, which I do kind of like the idea of just opening the door and the killer's there when they've not even interacted with the killer yet, but it also is so out of nowhere that it feels like very abrupt. There's a bit more comedy here, like she's noticing that her dildo's like sitting on the counter like in the background when she's talking to him, and it's like, oh, that's comedy, I guess, like, oh no, he might see my sex toy, yeah.
You get an important part of character development here, where you find out that she wanted to be a doctor for a brief period.
That's time, right.
Where she was going to medical school, which, again, really has like nothing to do with the movie except for this, like, some callbacks like later on, but it's just like pretty pointless.
Yeah, they basically try and give her a neat character arc by the end by saying, hey, she's going back to med school, and the reason why she dropped out of med school is because she was scared of blood. Like, she wanted to be a doctor, but she couldn't handle the blood. And like, again, I feel like they do like one bit where she gets some blood in her mouth later on, and she was like, oh my god, you got it in my mouth, I'm going to vomit. and she vomits. In fact, it's when they kill the killer at the drive-in movie theater. She vomits on the killer's corpse, which again, how am I meant to read this other than just like bad comedy? Like nothing, like like I can't take this seriously that I'm supposed to be like, oh, they got the killer, they survived. Oh, she's vomiting on him. Isn't that funny? It's lame, Tim. Honestly, the word I keep coming back to is lame. I think this movie's pretty lame.
I agree. One thing I think I did get a chuckle from is because you mentioned that he shows up in the closet in their apartment.
Comes out of the closet, you may say.
Sure. Which, that is fine, but the part that made me chuckle was, like, later on, I forget, maybe it was at the police station or something, but, like, they're scared of the killer, and I think she, like, just yells out something like, watch out, he hides in closets, or something like that. I was like, that was, like, a fine enough joke.
That's mildly amusing, sure.
Yeah. At least compared to, like, I don't know, some of the other jokes that they were going for in this movie that I just had no reaction to. I was like, all right, at least that's a little something more.
Yeah, we should mention at some point that Jordana Brewster's partner, like her detective partner, who's not a killer, is played by Devon Sawa from Final Destination and stuff. And it's like they're trying to set something up early on where he's kind of hitting on her and saying, oh, you're the man who'll make the first move, and he's kind of getting in her face, and it's like a little inappropriate, and I think it's maybe a little bit of a red herring, like, oh, he's kind of gruff and like pushing himself on her, so maybe he's a killer. But honestly, they don't like there's like one good cop, bad cop scene with Jay where they're interrogating him and he's getting really mad at him and she throws him out the room and then she acts all nice and is even kind of flirting with him a little bit. But that's kind of it. Ultimately, once stuff starts going down at the police station, like Devon Sawa's character gets killed very quickly and he's just gone at that point. And it felt like we didn't even get a chance to like get to know him or like get a chance to like, I don't know. If a lot of these characters just feel so undercooked to me, and that's not to mention the fact that like this police station has got like 3 people in it for some reason, and I don't know if they ever give a reason for why it's so deserted once the killer shows up.
Seattle's not that big of a city.
Oh yeah, tiny. Yeah, yeah.
I do like Devon Sawa, but yeah, this like character just has like nothing to do in this movie. It's just, I don't know, feels like a little bit of a waste.
I think it's stunt cast, and it's like, hey, we've got someone who's known for a horror franchise like in our movie. Isn't that cool? I can't say the same for Jordana Brewster. I guess they really like Fast and the Furious. I mean, she was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning, if you want to count that as horror legacy.
It is horror, I suppose.
Remember that shitty prequel to a remake 20 years ago? Yeah, exciting.
Tried to forget.
Yeah, 20 years old, that is, damn. Like, I'm all for, like, the killer being, like a love-scorned, psychotic woman or whatever. Because there's even, like, when they're investigating the crime scene, when they first meet these 2 characters, like, Devon Sawa's like, oh, this is probably some loser who lives in his mum's basement, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, that's assuming it's a man. It could be a woman who's had her heart broken one too many times. And I'm like, okay, it feels like we're setting up. And I feel like they tried to do both, actually, weirdly. It feels like her IT boyfriend is kind of the incel one. And then she's the woman who's had her heart broken too many times. And they've teamed up to take on the world, which power to them, I guess. I mean, they're into killing people and, getting off on it, I guess. But which even that feels undercooked, though. It's like, okay, they're working together, they talk about killing people, but I don't know, I never get a sense at the ending, even when they're revealing all this stuff, that I get like the idea of like, so is this like a kinky thing for you? Is this like something where you really get off in the chase? Like, it feels, again, very undercooked. Like they say, oh, we're going to kill that other couple that we saw at the restaurant, the ex-boyfriend and the new girlfriend, but we saw you kiss and there was just instant romance, so we had to kill you. And I'm like, okay, so you're killing couples that are really romantic, but that actually goes against the couple you killed in the opening, who were like the most like fake, like we're doing this for the Instagram picture, like, bullshit there is. So I don't know.
They just really don't feel like characters. Like they're just, nothing is that fleshed out. So
no.
Yeah, and
especially with the killers. Yeah.
And like, maybe it'd be like more upsetting if other stuff was working in the movie and then that just whiffed it. But it's just like, well, I don't know. I don't really care about anything else that's going on, so I guess I also don't care about these killer things. But it's all just kind of very bleh. I don't know.
Yeah, the main events, I guess, to just briefly touch upon is like the killer stalking them to the police station. The main notable part here is the killer gets into the interrogation room and attacks Jay, and Ali ends up like shooting from behind like the one-way mirror, and or two. Honestly, it's literally called both a one-way mirror and a two-way mirror because people can't decide if a regular mirror is a one-way mirror or a two-way mirror. But regardless, she shoots through that, and despite the fact that the killer's standing still about 5 feet away, she misses like 4 shots before the killer starts to move. And they do point it out, like Jay says, "You're a terrible shot," and I'm like, yeah, but that's almost too terrible to be believable. Like, I feel like I could hit the target from this, and I've never touched a gun before. Like, I don't know, but
like, yeah, she's like very close. Like, yeah, there. It'd be one thing if he was far away and running around or whatever, but he's in a pretty small enclosed space, and like, yeah, she's not far at all. Like,
she's basically doing the trick. You know how when like you go to the circus and they throw the knives at the person and like the knives are going around the body, the bullet holes are appearing around his body in the wall behind him, and it's like you're trying to miss him, but you're doing a magic trick or something. What's going on here?
Yeah.
So there's that. They they get chased to a drive-in movie theater, and we do a whole bit, and this is where I was talking about like the completely just shitting the tension away, is like they hide in a van where like a hippie couple are having sex in the back of the van, and the hippie couple are like, "Oh, this is kinky that you're here," and just go back to having sex. So they have like a heart-to-heart about how they're kind of enjoying meeting each other despite the fact that they're being chased by a killer. And I'm like, I'm sorry, like I don't buy any of this bullshit. It just feels really forced to me to have them have this like, oh, you know, I'm actually having a pretty good time aside from the killer because, you know, you're kind of cool. Like, all right, I don't.
I wouldn't have minded it if it was just like a quick thing, but I don't know. It felt like it was going on for so long. Like it feels like they're in this car for ages. That
it's too sentimental. See if it was like a quick like. See if you had like quippy characters who got the point across very quickly, where like just. It was like a 1-2 punch where one of them says, "Oh, I'm kind of having fun hanging out with you," and you go, "Oh, really?" And they're like, "Oh, let's focus," or something. Like, you know, just like something snappy that just feels like it sort of slips in. But no, they stop and have a heart to heart with music, you know, romantically playing in the background or whatever. I do think the kill here in the back of the van's okay because it's like the axle for the tires gets stabbed in the guy's throat, pinning him to the bottom of the van, and then he just grabs the girlfriend's head and just pulls her down onto the same weapon. I actually thought that was like a fun bit. Like I was like, oh, that's a fun little way to kill 2 people who are in the middle of having sex.
Yeah, it's fun and nice and bloody and everything.
Yeah, and there's a bit more of a chase, and then ultimately they're able to kill the killer with I think his own arrow or something at one point.
I think they actually go back and get the tire and iron.
Ah, that's right. Yeah, okay, you're right. I'm thinking of later. That's how because they use their own arrows against them in the final. But that's what I'm thinking of. And then they do. Joe, it's weird to be reminded of this in a slasher movie. But you know how in The Dark Knight, after the whole Harvey Dent bit with the big truck and all that, and like Harvey Dent's like, "Hey, I'm going to take you home, like the detective's going to take him home," and then he never turns up home, and it's like, "Oh, he's been kidnapped." That's literally what happens here, where detective lady Jordana Brewster's like, "Hey, I'll give you a lift to your hotel, Jay," and he's like, "Yeah, thank you." And then next time we hear from him, because basically we get like a 5-10 minute period where Ali basically shot him down before he left, and then just immediately feels guilty. He's like, "Oh no, he's a great guy," and we literally start getting flashbacks to earlier in the movie when they were smelling at each other, and she's like, "Oh no," she phones her best friend, "I've let a perfect man go, what should I do?" And she's like, "Go find him and tell him then, you dumb bitch." And she's like, "Yeah, you're right." And then she gets a phone call and it's like, "We've got your boyfriend, come to this location, blah 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 blah," like, you know.
I think that's a scene too where the friend, it's a big joke thing, but like as she's like telling her what she should do, like she basically like incorporates the names of like, I don't know, 10 different rom-coms into, you know, what she's saying, like you can't even list 10 things that he hates about you, and you got to stop him before he goes to my best friend's wedding, or like like all this stuff. And it's like, all right, I get the joke, but it's just, I don't know, it feels like it's trying too hard.
Yeah, it definitely is trying too hard with some of the humor. I think that is a perfectly fair statement. I also, again, tonally, and again, it can work in a sort of surreal kind of sense in the right tone, but I really felt here like they've like there's like no conversation almost about the fact that she was hunted by a serial killer and then killed the serial killer, which I feel it should be overtaking any like lovey-dovey feelings of romance that might have developed throughout the movie. And I get that it's a movie, it can be heightened, and again, you can have kind of a a tone that makes it work where they're not focusing on the things that real people would focus on. But it just kind of feels like it hand washes all that away. And she literally thinks the threat is over until the phone call happens and was, oh no, we do have more of a movie plot to go. They've kidnapped him, we have to go get him. And that's where everything happens. We're in a church. Take off the masks. They reveal who they are. They talk about everything, blah, 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 blah. And eventually they fight. And, and again, it's that thing where the killers at this point are unmasked and they're just trying to shoot the characters with a gun. And it's like, okay, so we're barely a horror movie at this point. We're just kind of doing typical movie stuff now. I will say, Jordana Brewster's death, though, again, is at least a fun concept. She gets pushed against this Cupid statue, the sword goes through her mouth, and eventually her body just falls to the ground and then her head pops off separately afterwards. It's a fun little bit.
Yeah, the gore looks nice, so don't really have much complaints there.
Yeah, the IT boyfriend just gets kind of like arrows into his face a bit more frequently. He gets like one kind of going up through his cheek into his kind of eye, and that's kind of gnarly. Also, doesn't Ali use her metal straw, which they've been like the one thing they set up that they pay off at the end is that she has a metal straw she takes with her for like her coffee or anything she drinks at a restaurant because she wants to be environmentally conscious.
Yeah, funny.
Did you like the commentary? It was like, oh, well, the cups are all still plastic, but as long as the straw is paper, we're doing something good for the environment. And like, I feel like you're trying to make a little witty point here, movie, but I don't know. I'm just annoyed by you.
Yeah, like to me that feels like a like typical like rom-com thing where like she's trying to kind of one up the guy, but then like the guy kind of fires back at her, and it's like, ooh, like, all right, this couple is feisty, Again, I could not care less.
Oh yeah, I think it's saying something that I just kind of ran through what the last 25 minutes of the movie were in like 2 sentences, because honestly, I was very, very checked out by this point. Like as soon as they did the fake out where they had the killer killed at the drive-in theater, everything after that, I was just kind of like, okay, I'm just waiting for this to end now. And it's a worse version of all the Scream sequels when they're explaining why they're killers and what their motives are. And I don't even like that in those Scream movies that much, but this is even worse than those. This is like the absolute worst version of it. And yeah, and they have the cheek of doing a 1 year later at the end and then not doing any horror movie stuff in the 1 year later. The 1 year later is literally just about them getting proposed to each other at the movie theater. He proposes with a key and says, "Will you move in with me?" And she's like, "I don't want the key," slaps it out of his hand, and she whips out her own little box and says, "Will you marry me?" And he's like, "Yes, 1,000,000 times yes," which is what the Instagram people said at the start of the movie. That's what the girl said when she was proposed to. Yes, 1,000,000 times yes. I noticed the full circle of that. Very good movie.
Perfect.
Lots of things they set up they did not pay off. That really is even more glaring now that I'm talking about them. And like, yeah, they didn't do anything with this character or that idea.
Yeah, it's not a super long movie, but it definitely overstayed its welcome. Like, I feel like you probably could have shaved off like 10 minutes at least.
Yeah, and well, part of it's not even the length that's the problem, it's the structure, because it does that thing where it wants to pretend it's ending, and it's only got like maybe the romantic part to wrap up like after just about the hour mark. That last half hour feels so long because it feels tacked on after what we're supposed to be the ending, even though clearly it's not. And like, if you're used to movie run times at all, it doesn't feel like you've been sitting there long enough. You know that it has to have some left, which also makes the fake out that we're done just kind of feel like a waste of time. I don't know. It's lame. Yeah, it's lame. I don't have. And we didn't even mention, yeah, the when the lights are out in the police station, that's when the killer's eyes light up because he's got like infrared, like things in his eyes.
Which I think is like a cool look, but I wish they would have used it more. Like I feel like there's cool stuff you could have done, like just seeing him like walking through like the darkness and stuff, and then it's really just that one scene.
Yeah, I think a big part of the problem is like one, how they portray him, but I think the way they film him is just such a problem to me. Like, see if you did a couple of like more POV shots, like he's stalking someone or something, or just something to give him it's like some sense of menace, the beyond just he's a dude with some weapons who's chasing people. Like he feels like such a normal guy in an outfit like all the time, and he has no kind of mystique. But I mean, I guess that's just tying into that we want to have the whodunit element, and the whodunit element is such a like one of the blights upon slasher movies. Honestly, I just have it be some urban legend dude, and that's it. That's all you need.
But like you're right, because he does just feel very human-like. But again, that makes it seem more unbelievable because, like in the beginning, they're doing like these multiple news reports and like warning people to stay inside. It's like, the way they build it up is it, seems like he should be some crazy slasher that has this gigantic body count. But then when you see him, it's just like, oh yeah, it feels like a normal guy that should have been taken down like a long time ago.
Yeah. Just doesn't have any presence. That's the word I keep going back to, but there's just nothing exciting about when he's on screen. All right, Tim, what are you rating Heart Eyes out of 10?
I think I'll give it a 4.5. To me, it's not egregiously bad, but there's nothing super redeeming about it. I'm pretty much down the middle, and then I kind of just went 1 point lower just because the more we talked about it, the more I was like, oh yeah, that part did suck, and oh yeah, like that too. So it's not like a tough watch. Like, again, I'm not like passionately angry about it or upset that I watched it. It just is very much like average, middle of the road. Like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. I've seen this kind of stuff before. Some people like it. It's not. I don't think it's for either of our taste. Like you said, it's kind of that mediocre side of it. So it's a shame because it would be nice to have like a cool new holiday slasher that maybe we could get some sequels for, or trying to have a perennial like rewatch around this time of year. But this one ain't doing it.
I love how we took a quick break there before we started doing our ratings, and you can tell Tim had time to think about it because usually he waffles a little bit as he's thinking, but he was right in there with the 4.5. You were clearly sitting thinking about that.
Yeah. It's also getting late. I'm ready to get out of here.
That's fair. That's fair. I think I'm going to agree with the 4.5. Actually, I was because as I was watching it, I was like, yeah, this is such a 5 out of 10. Like it's not clicking for me at all. But talking about it made me a little bit more annoyed. So I'm going to say 4.5. I think that's right. I think 4 just feels a bit more on the this is just outright kind of bad side, and I think that's maybe a little just a touch unfair. So 4.5 feels right to me. So there you go. Next week on the show, we should be doing a movie called Marshmallow, which was a Patreon vote winner. It's another 2025 movie, so a bit smaller, though. This is one that I hadn't really heard of any of these vote options until I went looking for them. So it's more of a deep cut, so hopefully we found maybe a gem here, but maybe it'll suck. Who knows? But we're doing Marshmallow next week. As we continue to get some 2025 catch-up movies done. Also worth mentioning, since I'm going to promote Patreon and YouTube membership at you, obviously you access to even more streams, which we do most weeks, little extra discussions on a horror movie related topic of some kind. Sometimes it'll be a little top 5, a top 10, or just maybe talk about some trailers or something like that, but that's like most weeks. And then most months we have a bonus episode where we'll do kind of a sillier thing, or maybe just something that we don't have time for in the main show. This month we've got a bonus episode going out for a 2025 movie called Bone Lake, so if you want to get our thoughts on that, that'll be up for patrons and YouTube members. But mostly you're helping keep the show coming, so thanks to everyone who already supports us.
And I would say Bone Lake, more fun to talk about than this movie.
There you go. That's a sales pitch for you. Yes, it was more interesting than Heart Eyes for sure. And arguably, if they'd set that at Valentine's, like if they said that was Valentine's Day weekend, they could have called that a Valentine's movie. A couple of hearts around the set would have done the trick.
Yeah,
because it's all about couples, so it could have worked. But hey, yeah. So that's what's coming next week, and thanks to everyone who's supported us, like I said. But that is the show. So thank you very much for joining. We do appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, and we will see you next time.